My dad always told me, all you owe anyone is to love them, and you don't have to wait until they deserve it. As I've been going through the Love at Last Sight challenge, I constantly am reminded of my parents and my dad.
I've married my high school sweetheart, and I had the wonderful opportunity and blessing to be married to Barbara for over 34 years until she went to heaven. One of the greatest experiences that Barb and I had together was that we had the opportunity to accept Christ. And we did it right beside our bed one night, and it changed our lives forever. And we thought everyone would be excited. We found out later that not everyone believed that way, especially my mom and dad. That wasn't the biggest issue with my relationship with my dad. That came a few years later when I decided to go into the ministry. I was so surprised at his response. He had looked at me and he said, "If you go into the ministry, you will no longer be my son." And those were words that penetrated pretty deep in my heart. Those are words that no child should hear from a parent. So here I was. I felt like an orphan, and yet I was in my 20s, knowing my dad would probably reject me for the rest of my life. From that moment on, I made a quality decision that I was going to forgive him. He rejected me in 1981 after several years of doing the same thing, going back, loving him, letting him know I loved him, and still being rejected. We just purposed over and over that love never fails. We would purposely love him into a relationship. In 1997, I decided I wanted to do something for my dad. He was turned 87 years old. They did not have a shower in their home, and I was concerned that he could possibly slip and fall in a bathtub. So I made a trip over to see him, and I had a plan for him that I could go in and remodel his bathroom and put a shower in. After some thought, he came back and he said, "All right, we'll do it under one condition, that I will pay for the materials." And I was overwhelmed with joy to know that he would let me do this. It was very interesting. At first he was reluctant to have me do it, but as we started tearing the walls apart, he started engaging in conversation. So this went on for a couple days. So on Thursday of that week, I went to Dad and I said, "I'm sorry I have to leave, but I'm leaving the contractor with you, and he'll stay here till tomorrow night as we promised, and he'll finish it for you." I went to gather my things, and I met my dad in the room off of our kitchen. And he met me halfway in that room. And I'll never forget this, because he opened his arms and he embraced me. He gave me the biggest hug I've ever received in my life from him. He said these words to me that I hadn't heard for many, many, many years. He said, "Mike, I love you." And then he gave me a kiss on my cheek. I will never, ever forget it. The last 3 years of his life were the greatest years I had with him. Everything had more meaning to it. We'd go home to visit them. There were times I would go out fishing with him. We actually had conversations. It's as though he was genuinely interested in what my life was all about now. At the age of 91, my dad went to heaven. But I have 3 precious years that I will never, ever forget. A constant reminder that love never fails. And that if we intentionally purpose in our heart to forgive, God will do the work in the hearts of people.
My dad's intentional love with my grandpa is something I'll never forget. I can honestly say I hope to be the man that my dad is, and I want to leave a legacy of love like he's leaving.